Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. We've exhausted the fun's limit. The words hung in the sterile air as the mother clutched her son's thin hand, her world collapsing with each syllable. The doctor's clipboard became a wall between compassion and policy, between a child's life and institutional constraints. The pediatric oncology ward had seen its share of tears, but today's were different. Through the cracked window, winter wind infiltrated the room, much like the disease had invaded 10-year-old Alex's fragile body. His rocket drawings covered the walls, dreams suspended in time, while his mother calculated which possessions might cover a fraction of the treatment cost. In the corner, partially hidden by a support column, stood a man in a gray coat. He'd come to visit an employee's child, but found himself witnessing something that no technology could solve, no algorithm could optimize. The man who built rockets that touched the stars watched silently, as a boy who dreamed of the same stars fought for one more day beneath them. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. Alex's fingers traced the outline of a rocket engine on his wrinkled notebook. Despite the fourth line tethering him to his reality, his mind soared through equations and designs. Methane is better than kerosene for Mars, he whispered to no one in particular, his voice barely audible over the hum of medical equipment. His mother, Sarah, pretended not to hear the crack in Dr. Levine's voice when he delivered the news about the medication, a specialized immunotherapy that had shown remarkable results in early trials, but carried a price tag that might as well have been written in the currency of distant planets. The peeling paint of the state hospital's oncology ward told its own story of budget constraints and priorities, a stark contrast to the cutting-edge treatment that remained tantalizingly out of reach, just a signature and several $100,000 away. "I've sold the car and listed the house," Sarah murmured to Dr. Levine in the hallway, her voice low to keep the words from reaching Alex's ears. But even then... Her voice trailed off as the math refused to add up. The doctor nodded, his shoulders bearing the weight of a system he couldn't change. "We've applied to 3 more charities," he offered, knowing it was insufficient. In the waiting area, other parents avoided eye contact, each fighting their own private war against similar odds. A nurse wheeled a medication cart past the man in the gray coat, not recognizing the face partially concealed by a simple black cap. Elon Musk had intended only a brief visit to the child of a promising SpaceX engineer who'd been hospitalized after an accident. Now he found himself witness to a different kind of engineering problem, one where human systems failed those they were designed to protect. Elon moved closer to Alex's room, drawn by the detailed rocket schematics visible through the doorway. The boy's thin fingers made small adjustments to his drawing with the precision of someone who understood more than most adults about propulsion systems. A social media notification lit up Sarah's phone. A fundraising page she'd created had received another $50 donation. Her silent tears calculated the distance between that number and the mountain still to climb. Dr. Levine returned with forms clutched tightly, his knuckles white. "The hospital administration is asking for a deposit before we can even order the medication," he explained, professional demeanor straining to contain his frustration. "The pharmaceutical company won't release it otherwise." Outside the window, snowflakes began their silent descent, each one perfect, each one temporary, much like the fragile hopes within these walls. Elon Musk stood at the intersection of all these moments, listening as Alex suddenly broke into a coughing fit that sent Sarah rushing to her son's side. "Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching." "Can I see your rocket?" The question cut through the antiseptic air, causing Alex to look up from his drawing. His eyes widened as recognition dawned. The man in the gray coat now stood in his doorway, security detail maintaining a respectful distance. Sarah froze, washcloth in hand, momentarily forgetting to breathe. Alex's pale face bloomed with color for the first time in weeks. You're him," the boy whispered, clutching his notebook tightly against his chest. Elon smiled, stepping into the room with the careful movements of someone entering sacred space. "I saw your design from the hallway. Your oxidizer-to-fuel ratio calculations look promising." Alex's hands trembled as he extended his notebook. "I've been studying the Raptor engines," he explained, his voice stronger than it had been moments before. Sarah stood back, watching her son transform from patient to engineer in the span of seconds. Dr. Levine appeared in the doorway, clipboard still in hand, his expression cycling rapidly through confusion, recognition, and disbelief as the billionaire sat casually on the edge of Alex's bed. "This cooling system, it's innovative," Elon remarked, pointing to a detail in Alex's drawing. Other children from nearby rooms began to gather in the doorway, whispering among themselves. Alex beamed with pride, momentarily freed from the weight of his diagnosis. "I had to solve the thermal expansion problem," he explained with the confidence of a seasoned engineer. Sarah watched, tears streaming silently down her face, gratitude for this moment of joy overwhelming her. A notification pinged on a nurse's phone. Someone had recognized Elon and posted about his presence. The hospital corridor outside was beginning to stir with activity. Dr. Levine awkwardly cleared his throat, still holding the insurance denial forms and treatment cost estimates. "Mr. Musk, I'm sorry, but we need the room for," he began, but stopped as Elon's attention shifted to the medical charts at the foot of Alex's bed. The billionaire's expression changed as he read the diagnosis, treatment plan, and then the highlighted payment pending notation in bold red letters. "What's pending?" he asked quietly, looking between the doctor and Sarah. The room fell silent. Sarah's hands twisted the worn fabric of her sweater. "It's a specialized immunotherapy," she finally said, voice barely audible. "The insurance won't cover experimental treatments." Dr. Levine stepped forward, professional composure returning. "The treatment has shown exceptional promise for Alex's particular genetic markers, but it costs more than our house," Sarah finished, looking away. Alex closed his notebook, the joy of moments before evaporating. "It's okay, Mom. I can keep doing the standard treatment." His small voice, trying to sound brave, seemed to echo throughout the room. A nurse appeared with medication for another patient, briefly making eye contact with Elon before looking away. Hospital staff had begun gathering at the nurses' station, whispering among themselves. Elon's security shifted uncomfortably as more people filled the corridor. Through the thin walls came the sound of someone crying in another room, a stark reminder of where they were. Elon looked at Alex, then at the rocket drawings covering the walls, each one meticulously detailed, each one a declaration of hope in a place where hope came at a premium. "What's the treatment called?" he asked finally, pulling out his phone. Dr. Levine named a therapy so new it had barely made it to medical journals. "And the cost?" Elon continued, his fingers poised over his screen. The figure Dr. Levine quoted made Sarah close her eyes in pain. "This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk." "That's just for one round, Doctor," Levine added, his clinical tone failing to mask his frustration with the system he represented but didn't design. Alex would need 3. Elon nodded slowly, eyes never leaving the boy's face. The room around them had become a stage, with hospital staff and patients lingering in doorways and corridors. Alex looked down at his hands, embarrassment coloring his features. "I don't want to be a charity case," he whispered, the words of a child forced to understand adult concerns too early. Elon moved closer, sitting again on the edge of the bed. "You know what I do when I encounter a problem without a solution?" he asked, his voice pitched for Alex alone, though everyone strained to hear. Alex looked up, curiosity overcoming his shame. "You build something new," he answered. Elon smiled. "Exactly." He turned to Sarah and Dr. Levine. "This isn't charity. This is investment." His fingers moved rapidly across his phone screen. "I'm looking for engineers who understand propulsion systems. Alex's designs show promise." The transaction notification appeared on his screen, and he turned it toward Dr. Levine. "Consider this an advance on future work." The doctor's eyes widened as he registered the figure on the screen, enough for all 3 treatments plus a year of follow-up care. Sarah made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob, her hand flying to her mouth. "But," she began, unable to formulate words as the reality crashed over her. Elon held up his hand. "My only condition is that Alex keeps working on his designs." He turned to the boy whose eyes shone with a light that had nothing to do with fever. "The methane cooling system you sketched, that's a problem we're actively trying to solve. I have engineers with PhDs who haven't thought of that approach." Around them, phones captured the moment, though Elon's security was ensuring a respectful distance. Dr. Levine was already on the phone with the hospital administration, his voice carrying an authority it had lacked minutes before. "Yes, the full amount immediately. I need that medication ordered today." Alex looked at his mother, then back at Elon. "I can solve the thermal expansion issue by next week," he promised solemnly, causing Elon to laugh. "I believe you," he replied, the words carrying weight beyond their simple meaning. A nurse rushed in with papers for Sarah to sign, her hands shaking as she processed what was happening. "The pharmacy is expediting the order," she explained, voice hushed with reverence. "They said it should arrive tomorrow morning." Sarah signed her name mechanically, tears falling onto the document. Throughout the ward, whispers traveled like electricity. Parents clutched their children closer, watching the scene unfold through doorways and windows, a moment of impossibility in a place defined by harsh realities. Elon stood, squeezing Alex's shoulder gently. "I expect weekly updates on your designs," he said, his tone making it clear this wasn't charity but collaboration. Alex nodded solemnly, then, on impulse, reached for his most detailed drawing and extended it to Elon. "This one's my best work," he said. Elon accepted it with the care one would give a precious artifact. "I'll have this framed in my office," he promised. The security team signaled it was time to leave, but Elon paused at the doorway. "The stars aren't just for those who can afford the journey," he said, his words carrying to every corner of the now silent ward. "They're for dreamers like Alex who help us find new ways to reach them. It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it." By morning, Alex's story had spread beyond the hospital walls. The video of Elon accepting the rocket design had gone viral, with millions of shares across platforms. Local news vans crowded the hospital parking lot, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like modern prayers. Inside, the atmosphere had transformed. The pediatric oncology ward hummed with a new energy as the specialized medication was prepared in the pharmacy. Dr. Levine moved through the corridors with lighter steps, stopping to share smiles with his colleagues. Sarah sat beside Alex, watching as color gradually returned to his face, not from the medication, which hadn't yet begun, but from something equally powerful: purpose. The boy worked tirelessly on a new design, his pencil moving with renewed vigor. "Do you think he'll really look at these?" Alex asked his mother, pausing to examine his latest equation. Sarah nodded, the weight of yesterday's despair replaced by something she'd almost forgotten: hope. 2 days later, a package arrived from SpaceX headquarters, a tablet preloaded with engineering software and a secure channel for sending designs directly to a development team. The note attached, handwritten on SpaceX letterhead, read simply, "From one engineer to another. EM." The other children in the ward gathered around Alex's bed as he unboxed it, their own medical challenges temporarily eclipsed by this moment of wonder. Parents exchanged glances, something unspoken passing between them, a collective witnessing of what becomes possible when systems of care include humanity. The hospital administration, sensing opportunity, announced a new program to help families navigate treatment costs, naming it after Alex. Dr. Levine mentioned quietly to Sarah that several anonymous donations had since come in for other children in similar situations. "It's like a dam broke," he said, watching as Alex explained thrust vectors to an 8-year-old girl with leukemia, her eyes wide with interest rather than fear. 6 months later, Alex stood at the window of his hospital room, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that reminded him of rocket exhaust. The last round of his treatment would finish tomorrow. His latest design, improving oxygen recapture and life support systems, had been implemented in a prototype at SpaceX, with his name listed among the contributors. On social media, #AlexDesigns had inspired thousands of children to share their own innovations, creating a movement that crossed boundaries of geography and circumstance. "You know what I learned?" Alex said to his mother as they watched the colors fade from the sky, his body stronger now, his future no longer measured in weeks or months, but in possibilities. The hardest problems need more than technology to solve them. They need people who see solutions where others only see cost. Sarah nodded, remembering the man in the gray coat who had come to listen and had left having spoken volumes without a speech. "Some journeys," she replied, touching the tablet where a message from Elon had arrived that morning. An invitation to tour the SpaceX facility when Alex was cleared for travel. Require both rockets and humanity to reach the stars. Wow, what a story. If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.